Welcome to the show, guys. Football is back, and welcome to Saturday DFS show. Here, I'm going to help you guys with some starts and sits, answer some commonly asked questions for that week. Example, do I start Breece Hall? Do I start Michael Carter? Going to answer some of those questions, and of course, guys, get you guys ready with the optimal players in each round. So, DFS, doesn't matter what platform you're playing on, this is going to help you. And it's also going to give you an advantage on your starts and sits, because I get a lot of questions, and I'm inundated by questions. I kind of know what some of the typical questions are. So I'm going to tell you guys the optimal players in each position, and you guys can make that decision on who to start this week for your DFS lineups, or maybe even in your year long as well. It's going to help you. So sit back, relax, grab a coffee, grab a drink. It's Saturday. We're going to have some fun here. We're talking daily fantasy because we can draft every single week, and that's what makes it so exciting. Now, I'm going to pull up a quick screenshot here. We are talking Prize Picks. That's where I play, guys. Enhance your game watching experience and play DFS in a fun way with Prize Picks. Use code DFSLINE. Go create an account. They'll match your deposit up to $100. So check this out, guys, for week one, okay? They've got here on prizepicks.com. Again, go create an account. Use code DFSLINE to create that account for all the perks. But you got Breece Hall sitting at 31.5. I got Najee Harris parlayed here, and I got Joe Mixon, okay? I like this because I think Mixon will go over the 68.5. I think Najee will go over the 59.5. And I got Breece Hall at over the 31.5. And you can really blend, okay? 2, 3, 4, 5 players, right? You put them together, and all you got to do is predict more or less than their projection. It's that easy, guys. PrizePicks.com. Use code DFSLINE. Go create an account. And again, those are the ones I like this week. I like that. I think that's simple. I think Breece Hall should go over 31.5. Rushing yards. I understand that Michael Carter is slated as a starter. I'm not really sold on Michael Carter. He fumbled in that third preseason game. I'm not really sold on him. So, again, that's just a sample. I'm not saying go do this. I'm saying that's just a sample of 3 easy picks, in my opinion, for this week. PrizePicks.com. Use code DFSLINE. Go create an account right now. All right, let's dive into the optimal players in each position here. I'm going to start off here with quarterback. Now, a lot of people, if you guys got 16 rounds, got 2 quarterbacks on their roster, okay? So they're trying to decide, do I go with my starter who's got a tougher matchup? A guy, for example, I'll give you Pat Mahomes, 11th hardest matchup versus position on paper. Or do I start my backup? A guy like Aaron Rodgers, which, believe it or not, Aaron Rodgers is an actual backup in year-long fantasy football this year. And again, that's up to you. I like to start my starters at quarterback. Now, typically, again, some people have tough matchups. Tom Brady has it a little bit tough against Dallas. I get it. Pat Mahomes is a little bit tougher against Arizona defensively. You know, Russell Wilson's got a mid-range matchup. But I like to start my starters. But what if there's a guy like Trevor Lawrence on your roster as a backup? Now, for DFS, for value, $5,600 on most platforms right now. If you buy him on DraftKings, is $5,600. So Trevor Lawrence, guys, has an easy matchup, arguably the easiest matchup versus position. So a couple guys that have easy matchups here. And again, you can make that decision whether you're playing Prize Picks or wherever you're playing. But I like Prize Picks. Again, go create an account, DFS Lion. That's where I like to play it. Trevor Lawrence, whatever. I don't have his projection here. I'm going to see if I can pull it up on Prize Picks. But I like him, whatever, over. I think he's going to have a good game. I think he's got to come out strong. I think he's got all the weapons he needs. He's got a good matchup versus Washington. So, optimal matchups at quarterback. Trevor Lawrence. Kyler Murray, who just recently got incentivized, right? He's actually got a really easy matchup versus KC. Again, this is predicated on last year, all right? Aaron Rodgers, another good guy for DFS. Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones, again, pretty affordable. He's more of a value play, but a good matchup versus Tennessee. Kirk Cousins, not a decent, pretty decent value as well. And then if you guys want to get your safe plays, they're a little more expensive in DFS. Your Justin Herbert, who's got a mid-range matchup. You go ahead and do that. Russell Wilson, mid-range matchup as well, and Pat Mahomes. With quarterback, I like to get a guy that's going to be performing and consistent, or you can go with that guy like a Trevor Lawrence, who is decent value, has got a great matchup. Okay, guys? Those are some optimal plays. Now, if you want all the optimal plays laid out for you in more detail, conversation, join the Fantasy 365 community. I've linked it below as well. All right, let's talk about the running back position. Who's got a good matchup versus position? Now, J.K. Dobbins, I think he's still a little bit banged up. Make sure you guys are checking the injury report. I'm pulling that up right now. I don't see, I have no Dobbins stock, so I haven't been keeping up with him, but I think he should be good to go. Check it out here. So we've got anybody from, maybe it's Mike Davis. You start him, he's a good value. The Ravens running backs have a great matchup, okay, this week. Miles Sanders, again, guys that I have no stock in. So it's going to be very interesting, like a guy like Miles Sanders or anybody starting for the Ravens. How are they going to do? Because Baltimore versus the Jets is a good matchup. Miles Sanders versus Detroit is a good matchup as well. Another good matchup this week for year long as well is Javonte Williams, a must start this week versus Seattle. We're going to have to see how that plays out this week with Melvin Gordon and Javonte, something I'm going to be watching very, very heavily. Jonathan Taylor, the number 1 overall draft pick on everybody's rankings. It's got it in versus Houston. Good matchup here. Very good matchup, but very expensive in DFS. He's currently $9,100 if you want to start him on DraftKings. Wherever you're playing, he's expensive, and I believe for prize picks, he is over 100. 100 is that mark on the rushing yards for prize picks. So I don't know. This one's a tough one, man. It's kind of like that borderline. Will he rush over 100? The matchup is favorable for Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to take the slight under on Jonathan Taylor over 100 yards. I think Houston neutralized him. I think Houston's improved their defense significantly in the offseason. I'm probably taking the under here on prize picks. But again, it's up to you guys to make that decision. Again, try to go for those easier ones. Like Najee Harris at 59.5. That seems easier for rushing guys than 100 for Jonathan Taylor. All right, now you're going to ask me, how good is Najee Harris's matchup? We're going to get to that in a second. We're working our way down. All right, so let's keep going here. Now, understand, guys, with running backs, start your workhorse. Now, going back to that question here, Breece Hall, Michael Carter. First of all, how tough is that matchup? Breece Hall and Michael Carter have arguably, again, on paper, predicated kind of on last year because we got to feel out. The first week is a feel out type of week. Breece Hall's actually got the 10th hardest matchup versus position versus Baltimore. Michael Carter, they said he's going to be starting. I think he gets, the first couple handoffs or whatever like that, first couple drives maybe. But after that, I think Breece Hall takes over, okay? I think Michael Carter, again, fumbled his way out of his job, I think, last preseason game. Didn't look good, and they invested high draft capital in Breece Hall. I'm still starting Breece Hall as a flex player or as a RB2. I'm not a believer in Michael Carter. Call me stubborn. I'm not sold, okay, guys, at all on him. All right, let's keep going here with the matchups here. Now, you're asking here about Najee Harris. Najee Harris actually has a mid-range matchup. 12th easiest versus position versus Cincy. So that's why when I look at prize picks, I'm like 59.5. I think Najee could do that. Obviously, his yards per carry weren't good that last year. I think he takes a step up this year. But again, the quarterback situation is suspect to say the least, okay? Deandre Swift's got a good matchup versus Philly. Other guys you may want to consider starting here. Now, here's the crazy thing, okay? On paper, Cam Akers actually had a decent matchup. Wasn't the best, wasn't the easiest, but he crapped the bed. You guys saw that matchup, right? But on paper, according to last year, Buffalo's rush defense wasn't the hardest to go against. It was a relatively easy matchup for him, and he absolutely crapped the bed. So sometimes matchups don't mean anything. You got to start the guy that's going to get the volume. For example, Derrick Henry, I'm going to start him no matter what, but he does have a good matchup versus the Giants, okay? Austin Eckler, you drafted him in the second round. Great matchup versus Vegas, right? Jonathan Taylor, you're not going to sit these guys. Josh Jacobs versus Chargers, decent matchup, all right, guys? So start your starters. I just gave you a bunch that have optimal players. Now, you want to find that value here at wide receiver, guys, when you're drafting predicated on wide receivers. So when I look at wide receivers, I try to find those huge value plays because for me, with wide receiver, you can get guys that could absolutely go off and could really do well for you at the wide receiver position, and you don't have to pay too much, all right? So let's go over some of that. Now, you obviously have your starters. Devonte Adams got actually a really, really tough matchup this week. So this is going to be a true test because the Chargers secondary is good. So if you have Adams, obviously you got to start him in year long, but he does have it tough. So this is going to be a true test. Is Derek Carr going to really, really crush it this year? If he does with the Chargers in week 1, he's making a statement, okay? Now, if you want a big value, a $3,000 difference in DFS, you could start Renfrow, who was the wide receiver 1, and feel it out week 1. I have no stock in Renfrow. I don't believe in him. They've got Waller and Adams full force and Jacobs. It's going to be tough for Renfrow to duplicate last year's numbers. And again, I'm not a believer in Adams this year. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Philly secondary, tough matchup this week, okay? And he's pretty expensive, $6,100 on DraftKings. Be aware of that, okay? Tyree Kill, okay, versus New England. Another true test. So two guys that were drafted relatively high have got tough matchups, Tyree Kill and Adams. So it's going to be interesting to see how Adams and Tyree Kill do because, again, Tyree Kill against New England secondary, pretty tough. Again, this is a feeler out week. Remember, it's a feeler out week, okay? Let's go for some optimal players, okay? Christian Watson, love him this week. Now, I don't see a designation here. Last I heard at the time of this recording, is that Lazard is doubtful for this game, okay? Now, Christian Watson apparently participated fully in practice on Friday. He's not on the injury report. Watson should be good to go, an opportunity to shine. Now, Lazard did not practice on Friday and is listed as, again, doubtful for week 1. So this is an opportunity for Watson to shine. Are they going to give him the boatload, or are they going to start with Watkins, Randall Cobb, and maybe even a Romeo Dobbs? Going to be interesting to see how this plays out here with the Packers, but the good news is that it is a good matchup for them versus Minnesota. They also got Amari Rodgers there that they could start. They could start off with their veterans, work Christian Watson in. I'm not sure the level of trust they have in the young Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs, but if Lazard is out, it's going to be very interesting to see if Christian Watson could shine in this good matchup for him, okay? Now, we got the Giants versus Tennessee, relatively good matchup. Do I trust these guys? No. Sterling Shepard, but he's a good value play on DFS, okay? Elijah Moore, another optimal play this week, playing Baltimore secondary, prime for a good week. Although, again, we got Flacco throwing the ball. Do we really, really trust that? Big question mark, okay? But he's still a decent play, Elijah Moore, $5,100 on most sites, all right, guys? We got the Chiefs wide receiver core. Who's the wide receiver 1 here? That's a big question. All of them decent values. Juju, the most expensive for DFS this week, but they got a good matchup versus Arizona in what could be a shootout type matchup. But who do you start? If you want that huge value upside, maybe go Sky Moore or Mecole Hardman, right? Both decent value, but it's literally like playing the lottery here when you're looking at these wide receivers. It's very, very risky, okay? So I don't trust them. I like Christian Kirk's matchup, $5,100. Christian Kirk is in an opportunity to really thrive this year with a guy, with a quarterback that needs to do it this year, and Trevor Lawrence. Paid him a lot. Wide receiver 1, tons of upside, great matchup versus Washington, another solid play. Deebo Samuel versus Chicago, decent play there. If you want Ayuk, a little more cost-effective, more value. Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, both decent matchup as well versus Houston. I like the Alec Pierce value, and there's a big difference from $5,500 to $39,000 based on value here for wide receiver with the Colts. I don't know if Alec Pierce is going to get the full workload or get a lot of volume week 1, but maybe worth a dice roll for a value play for DFS this week, all right? Michael Thomas, I believe he should be good to go. Olave, Landry, it's going to be a disaster there as well when you're playing fantasy football roulette on who's going to be the wide receiver 1. I think Olave's got that potential. Obviously, Thomas, if he stays healthy, is the 1. A situation to watch, but they've got a good matchup versus Atlanta. I'll give you a couple other guys that have a good matchup. Julio Jones, will he get the volume? Good matchup versus Dallas. Decent one for that matter. I don't trust Julio Jones. I still think Evans is going to be the guy. They're going to use their tight ends. They're going to use their running backs. I've got no stock here in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers because similar to the Chiefs, they're going to spread the ball around a lot. Terry McLaurin versus Jacksonville's also got a good matchup, relatively expensive in DFS. If you want some value, you could go Dotson. Not sure the volume this week for him as well, okay? Now, understand, guys. Oh, one more here I like. I like Nico Collins this week as well, if you are looking at wide receiver playing Indy. Now, for a value play. Now, I want to explain something to you guys here. Week 1's a feeler week, okay? And that's where you could really take advantage of the opportunity for DFS because a lot of these sleepers, your Christian Watsons, your Alec Pierces, your Nico Collins, they're very cheap on DFS. So you can really, really take advantage of that and really, really thrive in that case in regards to some of these guys breaking out, and you took advantage and capitalized on that for value in DFS. And especially for Prize Picks, go create an account, prizepicks.com, DFS Lion. They're underrated in their rushing yards and receiving yards. So you could really take advantage of that as well. Very, very important. And again, I'm playing on Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com, DFS Lion. Let's go through some optimal tight ends for this week. Is again with value. I always like to look value at tight end, but again, you got your expensive guys that have good matchups like a Hawkinson and Mark Andrews. Expensive, relatively expensive, especially Mark Andrews at $6,800 on DraftKings. Very expensive. And again, you've got him playing the Jets. So it is a good matchup. Darren Waller, good matchup versus the Chargers. They play tight ends pretty easy. Problem is Adams. He's going to get the volume. Is it going to be ran for? Is Waller going to eat? Maybe. I see him getting a touchdown that game. Pretty expensive as well, okay? Again, Waller this year, big question marks. They brought in Adams. They're expecting him to be a top wide receiver. 169 targets with the Packers. He comes in. Waller was the number 1 target back in 2020. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So be cautious with Waller. I didn't invest in him in year long. Definitely be cautious in daily as well, okay? Other value guys here you may want to consider here, the Colts tight ends, okay? Big question marks. Jelani Woods, big time value this week. Could be a big red zone target for Matt Ryan. We don't know. With him and Mo Alley Cox, not sure what that situation is how that's going to unfold, but they've got a great matchup and they're great value at the tight end position. Brevin Jordan, I like him. Pharaoh Brown, tight ends for Davis Mills. I think he's going to go to Jordan. He's got that rapport with him. Both of these guys, good value. Great matchup as well. Dallas Goddard, okay, playing Detroit. Good matchup. Relatively decent value. You may want to consider him for a touchdown this week. Very, very viable option for a touchdown, okay? So those are some values there. Now, another value play here is, and you got to be cautious, is Cameron Breit. Now, they brought in Cade Otton, the rookie. They got in Kyle Rudolph. It's going to be interesting to see who Brady gravitates to on this offense, but both these guys, decent plays for this week. Cameron Breit. Again, I think it's going to be fantasy football roulette with those guys as well. Okay, guys? So those are some tight ends to consider. Other guys, some big names like, your Gesicki, stuff like Gesicki's got it in tough versus New England. And, some other big names like George Kittle, he's banged up. Take a look at his days. I wouldn't even start him. I think he's banged up. But even like a Travis Kelce has got a relatively tougher matchup versus position this weekend, okay? So Kelce playing Arizona, he's expensive, and again, has got it in tough, but someone's got to catch the ball. But on paper, Kelce's got it in tough. Don't always believe matchups completely, but I'm just laying it out for you, predicated on matchup, okay? Defenses, if you're looking at streaming defenses for starts and sits, and again, I lay this all out in the 365 community, so make sure you guys click below, join the community. I give you all the optimal players to draft in each round for DFS every single week. The value plays, I lay it out a little more clear, a little more concise, and laid out for you guys, okay? I like the Commanders versus Jacksonville, but again, you got to watch out here for if you're starting a defense because you got Trevor Lawrence. Could go off this week, okay? Pretty decent matchup. But on paper, because Jacksonville was a bad team last year, they are, Commanders look good this week on paper, right? The Browns versus Carolina. Do we trust Mayfield? Who knows? Browns could step up. Saints versus Atlanta. You never know. Kyle Pitts, Mariota. That could be a great connection. Drake London, right? Titans versus the Giants. Have the Giants improve? Can they light up the Titans? Can Saquon Barkley run wild, right? You don't know. But Titans, Saints, Browns, Commanders. Good matchups on paper. 49ers versus Chicago. Not sure what to expect out of Justin Fields. And, Ravens versus the Jets. Okay, so those are some optimal matchups at defense if you're looking at streaming. But we got to be careful because it is week one, and a Trevor Lawrence or a, Ryan Tannehill could go off here Daniel Jones versus the Titans could go off here. So something to watch week one. There's so much going on and so much for us to monitor that we have to be aware. All right, guys? So go try the site out, guys. It's called prizepicks.com. Use code DFSLine. Go create an account. Have some fun. Pick some overs. Pick some unders. There's a lot of, I think it's much more fun to play it this way and very easy to play it. Prizepicks.com, guys. DFSLine. Go create an account. And again, enjoy, guys. And I gave you guys some optimal plays at each position, all right? So many questions to be answered. Week one is here. I'm excited, and hopefully this helps you guys with your starts and sits. And I did a full starts and sits episode. Go back a couple episodes as well for your year long. All right, guys? Daily Fantasy Football is back. Let's draft every week. Check in here every Saturday for some advice, some layouts, some optimal plays, and some good insight to give you guys a major advantage to win at DFS. All right, guys? Subscribe, thumbs up. I'm out.